Hey guys, it's Abby and I am reading the shortest books on my TBR. So I went through my Goodreads TBR on my phone and I found the shortest books that I have listed on there that I own. So I have a shelf just for the TBR books to be read, if you don't know, that I own, that I possess a physical copy of. And I went through there and I listed them. You can list them by page number, and then I did it in reverse, so the shortest first. There are, I think, probably something shorter or that should be on this list of 5, but some of them don't actually have page numbers listed, so I just started from the first one where they list the page numbers. So, the 5 books are Greyfriars Bobby by Eleanor Atkinson, Klansman by Ron Stallworth, Avengers, the Ultimate Character Guide. This is just by an unknown person, it doesn't say. 4 by Veronica Roth. And Gun Button to Fire by Tom Neal. So going through these guys, Greyfriars Bobby is actually this is a fictionalised version of non-fiction fact that this little doggy, when his master died, refused to leave his graveside. It's all written in Scottish dialect. Should be fine for me. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll come back and be like, I'm a fraud! But my mother is Scottish, and the side of the family that we speak to, we like the other side, they're just far away. The side of the family that we speak to is the Scottish side, because we are right on the border with Scotland. Should be fine in terms of reading it then. Might take me a wee bit to get into it because I'm much better with the spoken Scottish dialect than I am with it written down. But this should be a really nice little read, and this one is 192 pages. The next book is another real life one, but this one is a memoir from Ron Stallworth. Klansman is about his time as the first black police officer in which police department? Colorado Springs, and he joins the KKK. He phones up and joins and sends a white officer in his place to any physical meetings, but he does all the phone interactions. And I've seen the movie that this is based on. Other way around. I've seen the movie based on this, which is the movie cover, but my boyfriend got me it. And I've heard that it's a dry read, but I would still like to read it and get his point of view, because I know that some things will have been changed for the cinematic adaptation. This is literally character by character, everyone who was in the Avengers at any point. I've not actually read the comics, I've just watched the movies. I would need a bind-up of them to read them. I can't deal with like individual comics, I need more of a story at once. But I would like to get to them at some point. Probably won't. This is also something that I might end up donating to the school that my mum works at. It's a primary school, so ages, well, they've got nursery as well, ages like 3 or 4 up until 12. They've got nursery to year 6. Any Brits, help. I think that it is 3 till 12. So some of them would be like big Marvel fans, especially with all the movies, so I might end up donating this to them, but I would like to just read through the entire thing. Then we've got 4 by Veronica Roth. This is I'm so excited to have finally gotten this. I'm not donating this one. I really want the cover that matches my set, and most of the ones that I find in the second-hand shops are not the cover that matches my set. But this is a short story collection following one of the secondary characters from the Divergent series, and this is before our main character, Beatrice. Deep apologies, I've not read Divergent in years. But this is before she joins and does all the choicey stuff, so it's about him. Let's see the page numbers for this one. 285 it says on here. 208. I don't know if it's different editions or what. What does this next book say for the pages? 237. Let's see. It is Gun Button to Fire by Tom Neal. This is a non-fiction book about one of the few fighter... What? I didn't realise. This is a memoir. I thought that this was just a book, like a non-fiction researched book about some of the RAF pilots from World War II. It is not. It is a memoir from Tom Neal himself. When aged only 19, he shot down 13 enemy aircraft. So he's shot down 13 Luftwaffe. Impressive. Sad for the dead men, but they were also trying to murder Brits, so. But yes, so this is his memoir. Should have known that. Didn't know that. I think it's because I had picked up another book secondhand, which I've since donated because I wasn't reading it, which was someone else researching it rather than a memoir, and I think I got confused from that. And it's got pictures in as well. Oh, that's so good that it's a memoir. That would be really good. Yes. Oh, the writing's quite small. But it's 270 pages. This one said 230 something, didn't it? Yeah, 230 something. So the page numbers are all wrong. I probably have other books that are shorter, and it'll either have been because they don't have the page numbers logged, or because these are wrong. Also, technically, this was in here, but I haven't read all of Jane Austen's books yet, so I'm not going to ruin it by then reading the tiny one. But yes, so these are the books that I'm going to be trying to get through. I've never done this sort of thing before, where I film this part. I've done this, like, oh, the books I've had on my TBR for the longest or whatever, but I've never then went and read them. So this should be interesting. Do I start with the longest? Do I start with the shortest? I'm currently recording. Let's do this. I don't know whether I'll put it in the video. I mean, you'll know. But I'm currently recording this at a little past 11 AM on Tuesday the 22nd of October. Let's see how long it takes me to read these 5 tiny books. Those are the 5. The Marvel one makes it all weird. I'm trying to get the spines all down. So yeah, those are the 5 books that I'm gonna try and get to. Ta-da! So, it's been a while. It's been a long while. It's also been a while since I've shoved myself in this tiny filming space, and I am enjoying it. If you don't know, if you haven't seen another video, I am shoved between a desk and my bookshelves. But this is where I filmed the beginning of the video, so I wanted to film it in front of the shelves again. I finally read the 5 shortest books on my TBR according to Goodreads at the time. It took a surprising amount of time, and there's a variety of reasons for that. So, can I even remember what order I read them in? No. Let me get my Goodreads. The first book I read is the one where I don't know where it is. Yay! So, I'll put the picture up here. It's Black Klansman, or is it Black K Klansman? I think it's just Black Klansman by Ron Stallworth. This is a memoir by Ron Stallworth about his time in the Chicago Police Department, I think, as the first black police officer, and also he went undercover in the KKK. He applied via phone and letter so they didn't see him, and then used a white officer to go undercover when they actually wanted in-face meetings. This I read after having seen the movie. Me and my boyfriend went to go see it in the cinemas, and we loved it. It was amazing. So when I found out that there was a book, I was like, 1, shit, should have read that first. 2, need to read it now. So I gave it 3 stars. I finished this book on the 31st of October 2019. So it's been a while. It's May. I'm great at this. So the reason I gave it so few stars is because it's not very well written. When Ron, I don't know, when he wrote it, it doesn't seem to have been checked over by an actual publishing house before they just went, oh, that's a really good story, sure. It says it was read over by a friend of his who isn't in publishing, and that may explain some of the errors, but it does take you out of the story a bit. And the errors aren't necessarily just like grammatical errors. There's also some like repeating of sections and things like that. It's already a short book, and the book could have been even shorter if you removed them, but it also could have been longer if it had more of his opinions in it. It was very much a factual blow-by-blow. Kind of more like a police report than anything else, which would make sense seeing as he must have written a lot of those in his time in the force. It was Still a good 3 stars though. That isn't like, sometimes a 3 stars is like, yeah, it was fine. This is a good 3 stars. It was very interesting, definitely something I recommend. I really think you should either watch the film or read the book, both are great. The film does embellish it a little bit, but not to the point where you won't understand the story. The film says that the white guy who went undercover was Jewish, the white guy who went undercover was not Jewish. That was just to add another aspect to the story for the film, but a lot of the stuff the film kept pretty true to, and it was really interesting for both of them. So I'm glad I finally read that. However many months ago? How was it? 7 months? It's been over half a year. It's been, oh dear God, I am bad at booktube. So that was Black Klansman by Ron Stallworth. Glad I read it. Yes, it's only 3 stars, but the story itself is 5 stars. 100% recommend learning about it in some way, shape or form. Film is great. What was the next one? Okay, so I finished this book on the 21st of November, according to Goodreads, and that is 4 by Veronica Roth. I have wanted this book for so long. This is the same kind of cover type as my Divergent series. I got it in a box set from The Works, which is like a discount store for books and like arts and crafts that we have here in the UK, and I've been wanting this book in this cover to match for so long, and I kept seeing it in the other covers, either in like normal bookshops or in secondhand shops, and then one day in a secondhand shop for like, well, I don't even remember, but probably like £2, I saw this beauty and I was like, oh my god, finally! What star rating did I give this? Because this was 6 months ago. I gave this 4 stars. The majority of it is set before the start of the first book, because we're following him before the first book starts. There is 1 or 2 stories, I cannot remember, that are just after the first book has started, but it's just a really interesting delve into Four's life. I think it's done really well. The stories are fast-paced, they're really interesting. This was a really good short story collection, and if you enjoyed the Divergent series, I know a lot of people have a problem with the 3rd book. I did not have that problem at the time. I understand now looking back. Don't know if I would have the problem if I read it again. But this is before that. So if you have a problem with the 3rd book but you like the rest of it, this is fine. Pick it up, read it. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. The next one, I finished reading this book, according to Goodreads, on the 1st of December. I gave it 4 stars, and it is Gun Button to Fire by Tom Neal. Am I right? Yes, I'm right. This is another memoir. So this took me a little longer than a 270-page book would normally take me to get through. This is more like high 300s if you had it in a normal font. But this was really interesting. This is the memoir of a young man. He wrote it as an old man, but it's the memoir of him as a young man, and he was one of the best fighter pilots that we had. And it's his time in World War II, kind of his experiences. He shot down 13 enemy aircraft at the age of 19 in the Battle of Britain. That wasn't in one dogfight, by the way. It's in multiple different ones. And it just follows his time throughout World War II, so we get to see kind of his own personal life as well. This was done better than Black Klansman because this shows his personal thoughts and experiences at the time, on top of just saying like, this is what happened, I did this, shot down the plane. It does a lot more of the personal experiences as well. The pictures really add another dimension to it. I really enjoyed kind of seeing the names that Tom was mentioning and going and finding the pictures and figuring out who was who. This is also incredibly accurate. Like very much cross-referenced, checked for accuracy. It'll mention like specific plane types, things like that, so you'll learn stuff as well. This is just a really good book about the Battle of Britain. Next! This one was next. I finished this at the end of, I think it was on the 30th of April. And this is just a guide to the different members of the Avengers, whether they are the main members that you've seen in the MCU, or even the main members from the comics that aren't in the MCU, or just villains that they fight, or less prevalent members. I am not a comic book reader. I said this in my wrap up for April. I know about most of these characters from the Lego video game. Don't kill me. But this was really interesting to read. it actually taught me like a little bit more about the main characters that we all know, as well as giving me some more information about characters that are less well known but that I know from playing the video game. I'm not a comic book person, leave me alone. This was really fun. Even, like, you've got to be really interested in the MCU to care about this. I'm not recommending this to anyone who doesn't care about the MCU, because you'll be bored. But it was really interesting for me to read through. I give it 3 stars though. It's like, it's weird because it's kind of non-fiction, because it's stats about something that has been created, but the thing that's been created is a work of fiction. So I don't know kind of what genre to put this in. I'm glad that I read it. I'm glad that it's finally ticked off, and it was enjoyable. And then finally, on the 1st of May, I finally finished Greyfriars Bobby by Eleanor Atkinson. So, when I bought this, I had no idea of the thing I'm about to tell you. When I was reading this, I had no idea. It was not until I went and like looked at it a little bit, 2 days after I finished reading it. This is like a classic, and I mean a classic. It was written in 1912. I had assumed it was written like 80s at the latest, and this now explains why it took me so long to get through. I didn't start it until like a bit of the way through April, so it didn't take me like that long to get through. It is only 190 pages, but there were times where I didn't enjoy the descriptive writing style for places. I found it quite annoying and I didn't understand why the author was doing it. I now know that was definitely more the style at the time, the period that this was written in. Another odd thing about this is that the author is American. If you don't know, slash if I didn't say, I cannot remember what I said 7 months ago, is about a little loyal dog in Edinburgh. Edinburgh, Scotland. I don't know if the US stole another place name from somewhere and has an Edinburgh themselves, but I mean Edinburgh, Scotland. Arthur's Seat, the volcano. And it's written by an American, which I was not expecting. She must have came over and really enjoyed the story, I assume, but it was kind of a surprise because I was really expecting this to have been written by a Brit. Like at least someone English, if not actually Scottish. No. So that might have been another thing as well, why I wasn't so involved, because a lot of it, there were references down at the bottom for certain words, and I'm guessing that those were for American audiences because, oh, maybe not. Okay, so I'm half Scottish, and that's the side of the family that we're close to. So I know some Scottish dialect because that's how my family speak. So some of it I was like, okay, didn't know that one, cool, thanks. Some of it I'm like, why explain this? Like, you can discover this from the context, surely, but that could have been because it's for an American audience and they don't have the same intrinsic cultural similarities as England and Scotland do. So that kind of explains that a bit. I'm giving it a 3-star. It wasn't my favourite read, but now knowing that it's an actual like old book from the early 1900s and that it's written by an American, that does explain a lot of the issues that I had with this book, of the over-explaining and the flowery writing. And that's that. Those are, well, I only have 4 of them to hand because God knows where Ron Stallworth disappeared to. But those are the shortest books on my TBR. Why did I do this? I guess... So I've also done, it won't be coming out for like another year, or 2, or 3. It took me 7 months to do the shortest ones, but I'm also doing the longest books on my TBR, which include War and Peace, and Ken Follett books, and 11/22/63, some chonkers, and I wanted to take those 2 extremes and just go, right, these are the very shortest and the very longest. I thought that these 5 would be quick to get through. I thought that it was like, okay, these are the 5 that are the shortest, I'm going to get through them really quickly. I was working retail at the end of 2019, so I was like, okay, by the end of the year these should be done, because, you know, full-time 40 hours, sometimes 47 hours a week in retail, I won't have a lot of time to read, but they are the shortest. No. I didn't want to pick them up. They took me longer than I was expecting. a lot of issues getting through them. And that's why 7 months later, we finally have the video. What was this experiment for? What does it tell me? That I don't read short books any faster than regular sized books, I guess. There's no real conclusion to make from this, but those were the shortest books on my TBR. And I read them. Woo! If you want to see me read the longest books on my TBR, click the subscribe button. In about 2 years that video will come out. You think I'm joking. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Comment down below if you've read any of these books or if you've done anything similar. I'd love to watch other people's videos. Maybe you guys might have a more solid conclusion than my just nah. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this longer video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!